Alright, this one here is a 2009 Mercury MILAN. Got the check engine light, of course. It's not running, but it is on. 67,000 miles. And this is Nick's Solus Ultra. And yes, I'm jealous because my stuff's junk, but it works. But Nick, he don't have no kids, so he can go out and buy all this stuff. What are you doing? Oh man, look at the repair order. Oh, it's all wet. Nice. I'll let you fill that. I'll let you fill that out. Anyway, I have, well, someone cleared the codes and they came back. And I have the 410 and the 491 secondary air injection. So I really didn't turn the key off. I really didn't look at the flow chart or anything. I just like jumping in. So of course I got the wiring diagram, and just so I know what's in the circuit here. But you have an air pump relay, and it's on a 40 amp fuse, and then when the relay gets energized it turns on the pump. But then on that same leg, off of that, it jumps off, goes back through the fuse box to like a 5 amp fuse. I think it's hard to read, but that's the computer. This goes back to the PCM on the other page, just for confirmation that the relay actually kicked on. So there must be some codes that would say that it called for the air pump to run, and there was no, maybe get a circuit code, I don't know. But either way, I have a performance insufficient flow code. So the first thing I did is, because I'm just jumping into it, is I just want to make sure the pump runs. Sometimes these things underneath the cars get full of water. So I'll put it up and I'll show you what we got. Alright, so under the car, here is the air pump. It's like behind the AC compressor, and it's just an electric motor. And I have a jumper wire here in the power feed, because this has a permanent ground, and you have this hose and this hose. So the bigger one is the fresh air inlet from the air cleaner after the mass airflow sensor, which is important because the computer knows it's working by looking at the mass airflow sensor change. So, and then you have this one go into a diverter valve that'll go into the back of the head near the exhaust somewhere. So I have this pushed into the power feed, which if you look at the, like I said, on the wiring diagram, well, I lost the wiring diagram. So I have this wire hooked up into there, and then I have here a wire just on the battery. So now it's wet, so I got some smoke, but you can hear it running. That's off, that's on. So I know the pump works. Now I don't know about computer control or anything yet, but I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't something simple like that. So now we're going to check for power. Alright, here's the wiring diagram. So you can just see the secondary air pump motor just has a ground. So it's good because it runs. So we're going to, my scanner, or at least Nick's scanner, doesn't do on the functional test any air pump command controls. So from the research we did, every time you start it up, it runs it for a couple seconds and it shuts it off, and then probably during a light load scenario it'll turn it on to check itself and look for the mass airflow sensor signal to drop to indicate there was airflow. So here is the suction tube from the air pump coming from the boot after the mass airflow, so it would read that. And then sorry, I have stuff already tore apart and instrumented here, but this is this heavy tube where my thumb is the outlet of the pump, and I actually have a pressure gauge on there because I wanted to see if there was any boot leaks or anything. So when I turn that on, you'll see I have like 2 pounds. Maybe we'll do that real quick. Alright, I just dropped my camera, so hopefully this comes through good here. But I'm going to zoom in on this pressure gauge here, and the black side is my pressure side. So when I take and jump my air pump again, if I can find the other lead, you'll see that the air pump does produce some pressure here. So I have about 2 pounds of pressure. So of course with a good exhaust, I should have under 1 pound of back pressure. So this should overcome any exhaust back pressure. So it's working. I'm not sure if that spec's right. Like I said, I haven't really looked at any flow charts yet. I'm just trying to figure out the system. But the next step was, honestly, I wanted to see if the diverter valve worked before I even went into the computer control. But that's the way I was doing it whenever I was just doing my quick checks. I'll just go through the same procedure I went through. It's probably backwards, but let me give you a picture of that diverter valve. Alright, so here's the gauge I had hooked up, and I just have my vacuum pressure fitting in that hose. There is the diverter valve. As you can see, it has a vacuum control to it, so that's done by a solenoid. And then on the other side of the valve, you don't have to follow it, but there is the outlet of the valve, is the rubber hose, and then the aluminum or whatever tube goes into the head manifold area. So since I was still on the mechanical side, I hadn't even started it up and I had the pump running, I just hooked up a handheld vacuum pump to the diverter valve, and for me it sounded like the valve stuck. So when I pumped it up, you can hear it move. That's open and it's kind of holding, and then if I release the pressure it closes. So but when I first pumped it up, I got up to a pretty high vacuum, and then it was like like clunk, you know what I mean? So I think the valve might have been sticking, but I went a little further because now that I know what's going on, when how the system's working, I wanted to check with my air pump running if I had any flow coming out of here, and I was only doing it by hand, but I will instrument it with this and we'll hook it back up. Now my battery's dying. Okay, so I have the test light, the Volt Pro thing, hooked up to the wire that's gonna be controlling the air pump, and then here is my hot one, so whenever it draws some amps. So I'm running the air pump. So here, Nick's gonna do it for me. No. So what I did is I have my gauge hooked up to the outlet side of the diverter, and then I have the vacuum pump. So go ahead, make it run, Nick. Wow. Turn it off. I got, oh, okay, go ahead. Why do I have it now? That's crazy. Okay, let off. So I'm actually getting pressure there. I wonder if that's not what I expected to see, Nick, because we weren't getting anything when we did it before by hand. Go ahead. So with no vacuum applied to it, I have pressure coming out. and I'm applying vacuum, that valve might be bad because I let off. I have that thing pumped up. I wonder if that thing's blown hot in there. Me and Nick, or is it Nick and I?
Nick and I.
Nick and I.
Nicky!
We're trying to figure out why the heck we have pressure when we know we don't have flow, but I think the valve might be sticking. So I'm just gonna put all this on there as well, because if you do it by flow, zoom into where I need to be here. I don't even know where I'm pointing. So if I turn the pump on and I take, let's see if I can see what's going on here. And I take the air tube off of the inlet side of the diverter valve. I mean, that sounds like a vacuum cleaner. So if I plug it in there, hold that. If I put it back in, just hook that back up if I can. And then I take this one, which you're not going to be able to see as well. Go ahead. There's no, on this, sorry, I'm grabbing the whole tripod now, but I don't, even though my gauge is showing 2 pounds of pressure, if I put my hand there, see the diverter valve's even off right now. I don't even have it energized. If I put my finger over the hole, I'm having a hard time.
I'm seeing smoke.
Huh? Drawing too many. So if I put my thumb, go ahead. If I put my thumb over the hole, there is flow. So I guess in theory, I am getting 2 pounds of pressure, but there's no flow. It's kind of like the whole thing with a fuel pump. If you don't have, it is hot. If you don't have, you could have pressure, but not the volume. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's enough flow to, if I were to compare that against exhaust back pressure, which I'm not going to waste that kind of time, right, Nick? I don't think it's going to flow. I don't have 2 of those T's to, put them against each other and see what's actually happening. Come on, you're going to make me do it, aren't you? We're just going to go with theory on that, because I don't have flow. I think there's something wrong with the valve. So I'm going to show, like I said, I'm going to show just the computer control of this thing, just to eliminate that possibility. So what I have here is I have my little Volt Pro thing. So if I can zoom in on that and bring this down, you can see I'm hooked up, I was. You may actually even hear the air pump run. But this is the wire that is on the power side of the pump. So every time you start the car, when you start it up, you see the computer is now running the air pump, and I can't really hear it as well, but I know it does run. So there's computer control for the initial startup. And then of course you want to know if the computer is controlling the solenoid, what you have here is a vacuum solenoid. Great. Let's see if I can get that good picture on that. So you have a vacuum solenoid right here, computer control of just vacuum, and then that tube is right here, and that's going on to, that's where I'm doing the vacuum port hand pump on the diverter valve. So if you wanted to check the computer control of that, I can put my vacuum gauge on. I'm running out of room here. I can put my vacuum gauge on the outlet of that vacuum solenoid, and then whenever the computer controls this, it should also give me vacuum here. So you should be able to get that. If I can get that to stay, you should be able to see that happen as well. So you can see it's not on yet. Okay, it's on, and you saw the needle jump. Hopefully you did. I'll do that one more time close up. Alright, I switched gauges because evidently my gauge here is sticking. Alright, we'll try this again. Cool down. Started up, the computer should turn on the air pump. You saw the vacuum needle move, run for a couple seconds, and then it'll turn off. So there is confirmation that the computer is energizing the air pump and the solenoid, and that there's vacuum making it to the diverter valve. So from that standpoint, we're good. Now I'm on the mechanical end, and we're gonna test what Nick's making me do. So what I did here is alright, I'm blaming this on you, Nick.
Blame it on me, Johnny.
No, you don't like when I mess around. So what I did is I found an old PCV hose with a T fitting in there, so I could actually prove my theory of a low flow issue. So I have the one end with this braided looking fuel vapor type hose for Euro cars into the pipe that goes right into the exhaust system. So I could measure back pressure from that. And then the other one with this little filter thing, which isn't a check valve, it blows both ways, is going into the outlet of my little diverter valve. So I got that pipe on there good enough to let the flow start. So what we can do is when I energize the pump, if I get a pair of needle nose and if I block off the hose, those are my needle nose vice grips. So if I block off the hose for the exhaust side and I energize the pump, you can see I have my 2 pounds or so. So even though it doesn't feel like there's any flow there, I do have the 2 pounds. Alright, so I got my vice grips on the outlet side of the diverter valve, and you can see I'm checking the back pressure side. So I'm looking through this one that's coming off the manifold. Go ahead, give it gas real quick. You can see I have pretty much negligible back pressure. Alright, Nick, you can go. So if I leave the whole circuit wide open and then I take and energize the air pump like I've been doing, and I make it run, you can see it's not, it doesn't have enough pressure to overcome, you know, the half pound of engine back pressure I have from that standpoint. And then if you look, looks like the troubleshooter showed the mass airflow as being one of the things it's looking for to confirm flow. It might be the only one that it looks for, the mass airflow change when it energizes. And with the vacuum pump hooked up and I got pressure on the diverter valve, even though it flowed both times, either whether it was on or off, I just did it the way it should be. And if I energize the pump, you know, it spiked for a second, but I'm still at like 84, you know, hundredths of a volt. And if I let off, you know, there is a little bit of a, there's a little bit of a change, but I don't think it's flowing like it should. And like I said, with the back pressure aspect of it, I'm really not building up any pressure. So now the next step for me, because I'm nervous, because what is it, $200, $250 for the part R cost, and it's not in stock, and I always hate that. So we're gonna actually pull it off and see if we can see if there's something mechanically wrong, just to try to help out. All right, with the diverter valve out of the way, I'm now hooked up directly to the air pump outlet. No diverter valve in there, and then I'm still going through my manifold here, which has, you know, the T, and then my gauge is hooked up, and the other side is still hooked up to the exhaust. So that would show you the pressure that it puts it out without the diverter valve in play. All right, so here's the diverter valve. There's the outlet going to the exhaust manifold area, and here's the inlet. Now I can't blow through this, and even if I use the vacuum pump and try to pump it up, even though there's something moving in there, it doesn't matter. I still can't blow through it either way. So this thing's plugged. And then from the standpoint of my test with back pressure and air pump pressure, when I started up, and I energized the air pump, I'll actually almost stall the car, and you can see my pressure go up to, you know, like 1.25 pounds. So that would be the difference between the back pressure and what the pump can put out. So on the mass airflow end, you should see that as well, which would be confirmation. So when I hook up the air pump, make it run, you can see I'm like almost stalling the car, but I'm actually getting a significant voltage change on my mass airflow because it's drawing it after the mass airflow sensor. So it would be calculated airflow, it's just the computer's not commanding it and is not expecting it. So I am causing a run issue with the car, which is fine, but that's how I believe it's supposed to work. I'm gonna pull the valve apart, but they're gonna try to see if they can get me a new one. Hold on, man, I'm filming. Well, here, you wanna come over here and hold this?
I just want to make sure that you listeners know that you take more precedence than me.
Well, here, man, hold this in front of the camera a little bit. Like, I pulled it apart and I took the tube and the flange off, and you could see there's all kind of rubber jammed up in there, like the seal. But I want to see if whenever I pull on the diaphragm with the vacuum pump, if, yeah, it is opening, but whatever that junk is in there is just preventing my flow. So that seal got distorted. And flip it around, show the front side, there's actually like some kind of filter in there. You know, is that the rubber right there? Is that the rubber? So the shaft's moving, but the diaphragm's not moving. Is that what it looks like? I bet that's supposed to lift. And it's not.
We'll have a new one in a little bit.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
And it's even cheaper. Sweet. Little bit more screwing around here. I opened it up, and he's pulling that, at least trying to.
Open it up.
I did. That's open.
Squeeze.
Just pull on it.
I don't want to rip it. Oh, I can't say
Just,
out of it.
oh, you ripped it. Ripped the rubber. You're not in frame here.
Here, man. Let's see. It's...
So it's just destroyed.
Yes. No.
That's good enough. I'm gonna record.
It's like
I'm gonna show. It's like a breath. It's the new one, and it comes with the flange I took off, and I'm not taking it apart. So you're not gonna see down in there whenever I pump this up. But whenever I blow through it, I can actually blow through this one. I don't know if I caught. Did I catch that? Whatever.
Blow it again.
It doesn't work when it's not energized. So there, we're comfortable with that. And here's the part that we pried out of the other one. So it's probably the seal, and we're thinking that the diaphragm part that we saw on the inside here is a check valve, so exhaust gases can't go back the other way. So that's what it is.
Yeah, it's one of the things to check.
Oh, is it really? Okay. Well, that's what it is. You want to dissect this one? We can. We'll pull it apart. But I'm out of memory. What the heck?
Sounds like my computer.
Nick's gonna put it together for me so I can run an emission test. So this was, I don't know, this thing was on there. So put that hose onto this one and bolt that up. What are you laughing at?
That's like it's technical. Stick it.
Huh? Stick that there. Whatever. Alright. We got the new valve in place. Everything's hooked up, but I have my manifold set up. And here is the outlet side of the diverter valve. So if I take the vacuum pump and I pump up the vacuum end of it, just keep the computer out of it, and my vacuum pump's seen better days. But if I open that up and then I energize the air pump, it's flowing out of there great, which it did not do before. So there's my pretty much confidence that it's fixed. But if I plug the my gauge back in there and I energize it, where's the gauge? Might help if I pump this back up. My vacuum pump leaks. So if I pump it back up, and you can see, I have about a pound. So there's what we think is there's a, you gonna tear that apart, Nick? Peel that. You have to. There's a check valve in there, so it probably reduces the pressure a little bit, or I'm not opening it up the whole way. But we actually have volume flow now. So when this car is running, I'm gonna take all this back out of play and hook it up the way it should be. And when this car is running, my mass airflow sensor should show blah 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 blah. Say that 3 times real fast. My mass airflow sensor should show extra flow, and it might not be as catastrophic as when it was when I took the valve out of the system. So we'll check that out real quick. Is it recording? This is what Nick made me build. Is that in the view window?
No.
It's all snugged up, man.
But
That's what he made me build, because he wanted to see it work, so there. I never save any, or I never throw anything away, so I had it.
Johnny, you see the load tester anywhere?
I was using it.
Just right.
How did I shut this thing off? I'll just let you shut her off. It's probably that red button right there.
Yeah. That's the self-destruct button. Alright, for the final test, everything's hooked back up, started up. See my mass airflow sensor reading. Now the car is actually testing itself, or it's actually running the air pump right now. We'll let that, okay, it's shut off. You can even see by itself it dropped from 1.5 to 1.3. So with it off, if I energize the air pump, you can see that's off. Oh wait. Once again, it might help if I actually open the valve. So if I open the valve, turn the air pump on, I actually stalled the car, so almost. But you can see that now that valve flows. So of course when the computer's not expecting it, I'm going to cause a performance issue like that stall and that excess rush of air. So I'm not expecting that at idle. I probably just set a whole bunch of other codes. But I'm confident this one's fixed, so appreciate you guys watching. Alright, one more thing. I decided to pull this apart. And you can see, here's the solenoid. You pull in the vacuum and the solenoid pulls this up. But it actually sticks. So I don't know. I had it stick on me a couple times. But the failure part, yeah, it's not returning the whole way. But the, you can see it's sticking either way. But the failure part was the actual check valve. So they have a check valve built into this one, so back pressure doesn't come through the system just like the old air stuff. But it's all built into this solenoid underneath. And when that piece of rubber I pulled off out from the hole from this tube port right here, here's the rest of it. So probably 20-cent rubber O-ring was the failure for this thing. So there you go. There's the inside of it. Thanks again.